So I found this interesting article I wanted to read, and then I found this clip from a Hulu video that's going to air. Is supposed to air tonight, actually. But there's just one little clip in the trailer that I want to play. But I want to read you this article first here. It's about the Menendez brothers and Gascon, the district attorney. So supposedly it's up to him, right? Whatever he decides. But I was actually watching this video that I'll play too. They said that actually it doesn't. It's like, well, perfect example, the Wade Wilson case, where the jury recommended the death penalty, but it was ultimately up to the judge. Well, I guess it's the same way here. Gascon can say, yeah, this is what I recommend, but ultimately the judge can basically do whatever he or she wants, you know?
Joining us now to talk about the case is defense attorney Manny Medrano with the Ramona Law Firm. And Manny covered this trial back in the 80s. Manny, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. And I had more hair back in the day, Colleen.
I remember that, Manny. We all did. How powerful was the statement from the 93-year-old aunt today and the rest of the family advocating for the brothers?
Colleen, absolutely and unequivocally compelling and powerful. When you have 24 relatives of the Menendez brothers at this press conference outside the downtown courthouse, pleading, begging for the public and the DA's office to look at the evidence again, that is very, very powerful stuff. And I think the most important point that they made, Colleen, is this, that today there's a different understanding and empathy for sex abuse victims suffering from PTSD. So I think the family members made some very compelling arguments today.
Manny, when you covered the trial then, was there any emphasis at all placed on the allegations of sexual abuse from the father?
Well, absolutely. There were two trials, you may recall, Colleen. The first trial, which ended up in a hung jury, a lot of evidence of a lot of alleged sex abuse. But bear in mind this, there was no independent proof of it. It was entirely out of the mouths of the two lead defendants of the case, Eric and Lyle. So at the end of the day, there was a hung jury. But then the second trial, the judge severely limited how much of this sex abuse evidence the jury got to hear. They did hear some of it. And after the second trial, that there was a full conviction for the defendants here. So I think the biggest Achilles heel for the argument by the Menendez brothers is, really, other than coming out of the mouths of the defendants, there was very, very little independent proof of sex abuse. And how about this, Colleen? You may recall the therapist who turned state's evidence and testified against the brothers. The brothers never told Dr. Oziel of the alleged sex abuse. And that was a very powerful argument for the prosecutor.
Manny, you heard today the family is calling for people to sign a petition. Even if there is overwhelming response on this petition, does the court of public opinion matter at all in this?
Well, yes and no. And let me just flag something for you, Colleen, because all of us in LA County are following the race for district attorney to potentially replace DA Gascon. And the last polling shows that he's trailing by 20, 25, 30 points from his lead competitor or opponent. So I bring that up because think about it. Gascon is in a tough position. On the one hand, he's trying to portray himself as more pro-law enforcement, law and order, et cetera. And on the other hand, though, you know, out of the starting gate with his tenure, he was very much victims' rights. So, boy, this is a tough call for him and might impact whether or not he's reelected, depending on what he does with this case.
But, Manny, it doesn't just rest with him, correct?
That's exactly right. Well, yes and no. First of all, it'll be helpful to the defense if the DA comes out and says, you know what, we agree that perhaps there should be a resentencing in this case. But at the end of the day, Colleen, as you correctly point out right now, it's up to the judge who makes that final decision. And no matter what the DA says, no matter what the family members say, the judge may say, heinous crime, shotgunning, premeditated, motive was money in the estate of Jose Menendez. No, I think the 35-year sentence will stay. So that's a distinct possibility here.
Anyway, let me read this article. So it says, Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon told NBC News on Wednesday he hopes to make a decision within 10 days about whether to recommend resentencing for the Menendez brothers. And that if he does, it's possible they could be out of prison by the end of the year. It will be up to the court to decide which way they want to go, but it's possible they could be, Gascon said in an interview at the Los Angeles Hall of Justice shortly after a news conference by Menendez family members who are calling for the brothers' release. If in fact they have rehabilitated, as we are being told, which is what we're reviewing, then I don't believe they should spend the rest of their life in prison, he added. Eric and Lyle Menendez are serving life sentences without parole for the 1989 shotgun slayings of their parents Jose and Mary Louise Kitty Menendez at their Beverly Hills home. More than a dozen relatives of the brothers argue that not only have they served their time behind bars, but that the original case did not properly weigh their allegations that their father sexually and physically abused them. If Lyle and Eric's case were heard today with the understanding we now have about abuse and PTSD, there is no doubt in my mind that their sentencing would have been very different, Anna Marie Barrault, Jose Menendez's niece, told reporters Wednesday. Gascon said that while he is still reviewing evidence, based on what he has seen so far, he agrees with those family members and also believes the brothers' claims that they were molested. I think that there is a certain level of evidence that points out that there were a lot of problems in the household, he said. The brothers were first tried together in 1993, but the jury deadlocked. Prosecutors retried them in 1995 when the judge deemed most of the SA claims inadmissible, with prosecutors convincing jurors that they killed their parents to inherit money and went on a spending spree after the murders. But last year, the brothers presented what they said was new evidence backing their allegations of SA, including a letter that one of the brothers is alleged to have sent to a cousin months before the murders about his father. In it, he wrote, "I've been trying to avoid Dad every night. I stay up thinking he might come in." Roy Rosello, a former member of the band Menudo, also spoke out in the Peacock documentary series Menendez plus Menudo Boys Betrayed, alleging he was also raped by Jose Menendez. Peacock is owned by NBC Universal, the parent company of NBC News. Not all the family believes the brothers. Kathy Katie, who is representing Milton Anderson, Kitty Menendez's brother, said in an interview that her client does not believe his nephews were molested and that they were motivated by greed. Even should those allegations have been true, it doesn't excuse what they did to their parents. And it doesn't excuse the murders that they committed, Katie said. And again, the timing that they only committed the murders when they learned that they were going to be taken out of the will would seem to suggest otherwise. Gascon, whose polls show is trailing in his bid to be reelected, recently began speaking publicly about his office's role in the case as it reviews the new evidence. The case has been getting renewed attention after the release of the popular Netflix series Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story, which dramatizes their story. Lori Levinson, a Loyola Law School professor who specializes in criminal cases, said that despite considerable public interest in the case, their release is by no means assured. The court of public opinion can provide some moral support for the defendants, but it's in the judicial court where the decision will be made. Levinson said nobody should confuse this with significant legal issues that have to be resolved when this goes to court. Gascon acknowledged prosecutors in the DA's office differ about whether the brothers should be resentenced and ultimately released. He said that over the next 10 days, he plans to talk to the prosecutors handling the case and review prison files on the brothers to corroborate the family's claims that they have been rehabilitated. "I'm looking to make sure that there is no misbehavior while they were in prison. I want to see what steps they have taken in order to become a better person," he said. Although Gascon said he is still contemplating whether to recommend resentencing, his public comments increasingly suggest he is open to it. "We're still in the review process," he said, "but if, in fact, after 35 years of good behavior, they're ready to be reintegrated in society, then I think that would be appropriate." Okay, so I'm going to play that clip that's from the Hulu, I guess. I don't know if it's I guess it's a documentary, probably, on Menendez. It's supposed to be airing tonight, which is Thursday night. I'm not sure if this video will be up and edited, if it'll be Thursday or Friday. But it was October 17th was when this was airing. So I'm going to have to check it out. But they play this little clip in the trailer. And it's a clip because they interview Gascon, the district attorney, the one that is going to decide and recommend like what he decides to the judge. So they play this little clip in the trailer of a part of his interview. I just want you to hear this.
Do you think the Menendez brothers will walk free someday?
I don't think that they deserve to be in prison until they die.
There you go. He doesn't think they should be in prison until they die. which if they don't resentence them, then they are going to be in prison till they die. So right there, it kind of tells you possibly what he's leaning towards. But like I said, even if he says, yes, I think they should be resentenced, it's going to be ultimately up to the judge. But what I'm not 100% sure, and if anybody knows the answer to this, let me know. Does the DA also recommend to the judge what he wants as the resentencing thing? Like if he wants to do, I guess if they do the appeal with the habeas corpus or whatever. I'm not gonna pretend I know all these legal stuff. But I was watching, I think it was, I don't know, I was watching a video where they had like a lawyer explaining it. But I guess if they do the appeal with the habeas corpus, which is what the appeal in 2023, then they would have a retrial. But with California, they have that resentencing law, which they think, most people think that is what they're going to go with, is the resentencing. Therefore, they could drop it down like manslaughter, resentenced to like 20 years time served. Even they give a resentenced to 30 years time served. So that's why if he's already saying that, yeah, I think he's definitely going to decide to resentence. But like I said, I don't know if he like recommends to the judge what he wants as the resentence. Like if he says, hey, I want to do the resentencing, like manslaughter time served or whatever. And then the judge decides, or if he just says yes. Well, yeah, I guess he would have to say what he's saying yes to. Yeah. Yeah. So I think he's going to, but hopefully that we got a good judge, because I think they should be resentenced. I think they did their time. They served their time. Justice was served, I mean, they did 34 years. Actually, it'll be 35 the end of the year. It'll be going on 35 years. So I guess we'll see. And then I thought that article was interesting because it says 10 days. So he said sounds like they might be giving the answer in 10 days from Wednesday. So 10 days from that meeting they had yesterday, which is 10 days. I mean, it's 9 days now from today, going on 8 days because, well, is that 10 business days? I wonder, is it 10 business days, which would make it like 14 days. I'm being silly, but yeah, it's coming soon. So, okay, so let's watch the whole trailer. It's only like a minute long, or maybe, yeah, minute 12, but here it is.
Those two pieces of newly discovered evidence are very, very significant and something that can't be ignored.
Do you think the Menendez brothers will walk free someday?
I don't think that they deserve to be in prison until they die.
It was the American dream come crashing down. Two young, good-looking men accused of this horrific crime with this even more horrific defense.
Lyle and Eric Menendez are stone-cold murderers. Abuse does not justify a revenge killing. Never. Never.
Was this a miscarriage of justice?
Yes, absolutely.
At the end of the day, this trial came down to one question. Do you believe the Menendez brothers or not?
The Menendez Brothers, Monsters or Victims, now streaming on Hulu.
That's all I got for you tonight. So I guess we'll just wait. 10 days, we should know. 8 days, 9 days now. By the time you guys are probably watching, it'll be 8 days. But yeah, I wonder how long that process will be too, because they got to go through all the legal like paperwork and all that. I'm sure it's a process, but still, I mean, they've already waited so long. What's like a few months or whatever, I'm sure it wouldn't be longer than a couple months to get everything. Hopefully it wouldn't be that long. I mean, hopefully it would just be a couple weeks. I don't know. I mean, I imagine there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of stuff they got to go through, procedure. Even if you just to get released from jail, like if you're getting released or whatever, somebody posts bail or whatever. Sometimes that takes like a whole day. It's like, oh, they're coming. I remember when I was in there's like, I forget if it was the inmates telling me that or if it was guard, but it's like, oh yeah, because it was the people I was in there with who'd be like, oh, cool, like they posted bail or I'm getting out today, and the ones that were in there for a while were like, oh, well, just don't get your hopes up. I mean, you're not going to leave right away. You might not even leave till tomorrow. Sometimes it takes like a day for them to process. So sometimes when it's like there's, somebody like posted bail or the judge said they could go. It's like, oh, it doesn't mean you're leaving today. depending on like if you got it like before lunch or after lunch. I think it was something like if they do it after lunch, you might not even get released until the next morning. It's just crazy how long everything takes in jail and with that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'll see you guys. Hopefully I'll be doing a live tomorrow, and have a good night. Bye.
Record your voice so I can listen back again. And I'm sorry I'm not perfect, but I knew that I wouldn't.